like, are we?
I'm sorry, yes, we're ready to go. We're online, recording and everything.
All right, 6 o'clock, let's start the meeting. So please start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was Mr. Thompson saying he was not gonna make it tonight. Sure why? We'll worry about it later. All right, entertain a motion to approve the agenda, revised agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second it.
That was Peggy for second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 I was just gonna ask if Jeannie could hear us, and apparently she can. All right, so let's jump right in. Consent agenda, consent items. There were a couple of personnels to be approved. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, with a first and a second, all in favor of the consent items, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Jeannie. All right, so we immediately jump down to action items revised. The first one is the redistricting direct, the resolution 11-22 redistricting director districts to adjust for the 2020 census.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution number 11-22 redistricting director districts to adjust to the 2020 US Census data.
Second.
Okay, did this have everything you wanted in it, Lisa?
I just have a question. There's only 2 districts that are being affected. Is that right?
Think so.
Okay.
Yep.
And then my other, it's not a question, it's a comment. Can we please change the coloring when we put it on the school website? So it's not 5 different shades of
Pink.
the same color. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very hard to read.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, all in favor? As a resolution, does it have to be a roll call? All right, well, in that case, we'll go with Jeannie. Why don't you jump in first?
Okay, aye.
Okay. Lisa,
Aye.
Peggy,
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
And myself? Aye. All right, motion passes. All right. So next, the financial consulting proposal. And this was going to be adding a few more days to Craig's. Now, we ended up with 20. You think we'll need 20? Or is that just that seems
Did we
awful.
put up to?
Yeah, we could do up to 20. I don't. Well, it says maximum.
Yeah, so up to 20, the kind of the caveat, and if we don't do up to 20, you know, we'd potentially have to reevaluate and bring it back to the board. If the board wants to do that, I'm fine with it. Or if they want it up to 20, that's all right too. In addition to this, because we're just shorthanded in that department, we may be looking at something with the ESD as well. So that's just kind of a heads up. It is, the start of the year is big with enrollment, as well as end of the year. And then there's some hiring and some staffing shifts that potentially could take place within the department, movement within it, and some training that'll need to happen. And so it's, you know, there's a lot of newness there, and we're down a number of hands, and each day we get kind of further behind. Okay.
So, just so I understand, it says proposing a maximum of 20 days of work.
Mhm.
That's 20 days above the 10 days that we currently have.
Yeah, he had 13 remaining. I think he used one of them, and so there's 12. And so it would bump it back up to 32. And the intent of that really is for the month of October.
Okay.
So to come in some days in September and work with Amy, but the month of October is end of year reporting is due. And so that's a pretty heavy lift, and especially with new people within the department helping guide, and he'll be teaching along the way with completing. And so, like I said, that's kind of a dual purpose, and I know that it's heavy anyways, but
Well, and when we originally established that contract, we assumed that we would have inside support for Amy. And that we no longer have that.
that you're exactly right. That unfortunately, and Becky Moore, I have nothing but great things to say about Becky. She was just a hard worker, and kept her nose to the grindstone, did a lot of things right and correct, and she did it really well for the district. So her absence will be missed. But in that, we're kind of left in limbo, trying to complete some really big tasks, and help support, bring on new people.
Sure, makes sense. Thank you.
So this will give 32 days
Yeah,
to use in October?
primarily October, yeah.
Okay, because there's only 35 days in October.
Yeah.
My question is this the final form? It's not going to be signed or dated, or it doesn't reference the original contract?
No, what we did with it, in fact, we did kind of a contract, we put a signature line at the bottom. We had that as an addendum, to just go along. I think that's what we labeled it as at the top. So if the board approves it, it's approved as an addendum on that, the original document, if that makes any sense.
That doesn't make any sense to me, but
Okay. So we had an original contract that's existing.
Mhm.
We're not going back and renegotiating the original
Right.
contract. He still has days left on that. So this is an addendum to that.
So should we then sign and date this one?
yeah, so I mean, I understand
Does
how,
that make sense?
I understand how it's going to work. The best practice would be, the lawyer in me says, it's just say, in reference to the contract executed on this date with Mr. Reynolds, we are adding additional days pursuant to this addendum, and then I would sign it and date it on that day.
Okay. Yeah,
Or I would have the district's attorney, who is not me, give you that advice.
I can have him do that the big thing is the approval and getting the blessing from the board that we're allowed to spend that money. So the contract we can fine tune just as you had recommended. And but the big one is the going, spending those monies and getting the blessing from the board on that.
So he still has some time on the current contract. This would be 20 extra. Can we put a little note in there, an asterisk, that halfway through this, at the 10-day mark, you let us know that we're halfway through this?
Certainly,
So
we can do that.
make sure that. I mean, I can't imagine it's gonna, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that job's way tougher than I'm imagining. But like 20 days of training, that seems.
Well, some of it's probably been more than training.
Yeah,
It's
that's
doing
true. I
the
guess
work.
if we're down to just one person, yeah, okay, fair enough.
And I mean, training can happen when you're doing the work, but the work still has to get done, and we have all of our monthly apportionment. I mean, there's a lot.
And then the startup for enrollments and all those.
Enrollment's the biggie, because
Yeah.
that drives the rest of our year.
It should take care of it. I mean, half of September and all of October would be coverage for all those days. I mean, I hate that it's necessary. I know that it has to be done at this point, but I hate to spend the money, but I think it's needed.
I would like to go on record. I want to provide all the support we can to Amy to make sure she's successful. Craig was terrific, and with the loss of Becky, it's going to be a tough job to take on and try to learn.
Well, I think just the fact that we have one new person and two seasoned people going out, that by itself might be enough of a reason, so.
When will we find out of
any agreements or any usage of the ESD for some of this? When will that?
We can do that. They're about $85 an hour. And so, usually if Craig and Amy agree that more support is needed, then we'll get an agreement from the ESD and I'll have the board approve that too, or it'll come to you before any action's taken. And we've had that, it was brought up at our last meeting. We've had that before in the past where, Carissa Garza is an example. When she took over payroll, we had some support for, I think it was like 10 days from the ESD. And then when she went out on maternity leave, we had somebody from the ESD actually come in and do payroll. And they were a huge support because they identified some things with our retirement accounts that we needed to fix for employees. And so they said, this is, right here, this is kind of jacked up. You need to go back and fix it. And so it was kind of a double benefit. And I think we ended up contracting with them to do some extra time to help fix that. So.
I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So everybody's okay with the addition of the consulting proposal then?
So just to clarify, you wanted me to notify the board at 10 days when
When he's halfway through.
this.
Yeah, because if it looks like we're gonna have to do something with the ESD, I don't want it to be, it needs to be next Tuesday.
Okay,
And it's like, well, crap, we didn't have time to discuss it or whatever, so.
okay.
So tonight we need to take a vote on this, Matt.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll make a motion then to accept the financial consultant proposal as presented.
I'll second.
And do you think it should come back with the signature line?
Yes, I agree.
okay.
What you said?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So should we table it?
We have time, we have extra days remaining.
And a meeting.
'Cause otherwise, it's just a piece of paper.
Now it's 2 weeks
Is that
till the
enough?
next. He's got
He's actually gone on a trip, so.
13 hours and 1 week to, yeah, I think we're fine. So yeah,
I think he's gone for these 2 weeks anyway.
so now that we have a first and a second, I'm not sure how do we handle it.
Well, you can
Just-
call the
You can
vote,
amend your
or you
motion.
should amend your motion or withdraw your motion.
Because if all we're gonna do is table it for 2 weeks until the exact same thing comes back with a signature line.
If-
Yeah.
If
Okay,
it,
so you want me to just withdraw my,
You can
2 weeks?
withdraw or amend.
since the board has discussed it, do you want it to go on again as an action item, or would you like it as since we've already kind of talked about it and touched it once, to go under a consent item?
No, it's not routine business. It shouldn't be consent.
Action.
Okay,
okay, so I will withdraw my motion at this time and ask that it be brought back at our next regular meeting as an action item with a signature line for board signature and have it reviewed by our attorney.
okay.
The board doesn't need to sign it. That would just be Matt, yeah, and Craig.
Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and table,
Or Matt and,
go ahead and table B off of the action items until 2 weeks.
is that okay, Jeannie?
Yes, yes,
Because
certainly.
You went through your first, so there is no second.
Okay.
All right, so next would be the strategic planning, and that is the WASDA training and strategic planning that we have discussed a few times. Man, I hate these things.
I'd like to see this move forward. We've seen this several times. This is working with WASDA.
I believe at this point, we're just approving her contract, correct? To move forward with it.
To move forward with it, yeah.
So everybody had a chance to read through it. We've looked at it a couple times. Motion to approve it.
I have some questions or maybe concerns. Minor, it's 10 to 20 grand in it plus travel and lodging. Where's she coming from?
I believe Tukwila.
And how much, and I guess I would probably lean towards how much can be done, via Zoom or, stuff like that versus having her come all the way over. And hotels aren't cheap anymore. So.
Yeah, there's a scope of it. $20,000 was on the high end. And that's for redoing our mission statement as well.
Mhm.
And so when she was talking about this, she said if it's just to develop a strategic plan, that's probably around $10,000. And what that includes is like a deep data dive. And so her setting up some focus groups, coming over, looking at student data. I talked before about she's geared towards when districts develop strategic plans, oftentimes they have like pillars that they call them that are like drivers to get the district to where they want, the outcomes they want. And so her goal, her focus is around student growth, academics. And so we may want to talk with her about, putting some things in there about facilities, safety and security, things like that. But the $20,000 was to redo the mission and vision statement. Typically she flies out, and that's one of the reasons why travel and lodging is factored in there. That she may not have to stay in Prosser. She may drive over in the morning, like set up meetings at 10 o'clock and then do those focus groups and then drive out. But some of her work, she's worked with districts in like Ohio. So she's done quite a bit of this consulting work. And I think that's why WASDA, she's the recommend from WASDA.
You said fly. Are we gonna pay to have her, is the intention to fly her from SeaTac to,
No,
okay,
no,
But maybe in the winter, if it was winter.
yeah.
we could Zoom in the winter for free.
So, and she said that she'd be willing to work with the board. Some of this will include board members, some of this will include like more focus groups, perceptual data, parents, teachers, administrators, and really kind of trying to evaluate the system.
Are we talking 1 to 2 months, 3 to 6 months? How long would this be anticipated to take?
I believe 1 to 2, depending on our scheduling.
Who would be the district core team?
Deanna, probably some instructional coaches, teachers, administrators.
In the past, the last time it was done, it was not my office, but it was through my office. I wasn't there then, so.
How long has it been since we have worked on since we've updated the mission statement?
My son was in 6th grade. The mission and vision we did
Yeah, we did.
5
that.
years ago. The strategic plan was when my son was in 6th grade, so 12 years ago. Or strategic plan, maybe 10 years ago.
Have we looked at any other options?
This was I reached out to WASDA. WASDA seemed, when we were talking about it with the board, seemed to be kind of a familiar consultancy. So there are other people out there that do it.
So I had a community member reach out to me, and it was Shannon Hitchcock from PMH, offering services from the hospital that they would do it, or at least meet with us to discuss what they would do. There wouldn't be a charge. They are, they want the school to succeed. They're having problems recruiting doctors to come here. They see the test scores and they're like, yeah, no, pass. They want the schools to succeed, and I think that might be worth a meeting to see what's possible. It would cost $0 to meet with them before we go forward.
Yeah, Deanna and I can meet with them. You can set something up.
I've worked with Shannon before.
So do we want to go ahead and table this one then too for another meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. While we're on that subject though, I would also like to, if nobody has any issues with doing it. WASDA also offers some team building stuff for boards and it has some of the Robert's rules and all those little practices all worked in. If we could have Matt look into those too. We did it like. I
My
can
first year.
Was it?
Yeah, Cindy McMullen from Central Valley came down.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a long time.
I was looking at the schedule for the conference in Spokane in November, the annual WASDA conference, and they have a lot that's focused on this year on budgeting. And I thought that was really interesting. So that might be another option. if the board-
Well, you know, the last couple WASDAs, well, of course, COVID, but even prior to that, we hadn't gone,
We
what,
went,
3 years?
Yeah, first year I went with Peggy and Jocelyn.
Yeah.
Spokane usually has a different feel because it is in Eastern Washington. Usually the content is a little bit different. I think it caters to that. But it's an easy drive up there and it's at the Spokane Convention Center. I think the Davenport Grand is the hotel that everybody registers at. But yeah, it's a good little conference.
Maybe this is the year we all go again. I know in the past, when we went as a board, you know, you get like your pamphlet or whatever, what has all the different classes for the day. We would all sit down in the morning and make sure that we all went to different stuff and take notes and then all meet up at the day. It was actually kind of cool. But yeah, we could certainly look into that. It's what, like November?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if we're tabling C, that means we're on D. That is the second and B, at this point, final reading of the special education related services for eligible students. We had talked about this and this was our last meeting. For kids that are homeschooled, private school, things of that nature. Was there any,
I had a question on this, Andy. I think I know the answer, but does this come out of our school budget or are we reimbursed somehow?
Cindy Dean's on here, I believe. So they do have safety net funding. But by and large, it does a lot of things for sped come out of the school budget.
So your question was about homeschool students. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
yes,
So homeschool students, what we provide to homeschool students are only the support services like speech and PT and OT. We don't necessarily provide specially designed instruction, but we can claim that. Their FTE. So we get reimbursed for that. Right now, we don't have private school students. And until the private school in Prosser is accredited, that will be the only one in Prosser. We are unlike Deanna's program. We only deal with the private schools in our LRE.
that answer your question, Jeannie?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Welcome, thanks for asking.
All right, any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the second reading of policy and procedure 2161.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, next is the Aquatic Center use agreement, which we've had for years, and for some reason this year, the city wants us to approve it and sign it. Did everybody have a chance to read through it real quick?
Yes.
So I got a couple of yeses. Was there any questions or concerns?
I'm just assuming it's just a formality that they came up with doing this in the past. I think it's always just been done.
It is an agreement that we've entered into for since I've been here. I think even before I've been here. Our lawyer did look it over. He had questioned why they wanted him to sign it. I think that's part of the city's policy. His questions around it were around use, spelling out the use or spelling out how disputes are handled. But other than that, he was okay with it, especially knowing that it had been something we had agreed to in the past. And so this allows our students to use the aquatic center as a practice facility and competition too.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor of approving the aquatic center use agreement, or actually, yeah.
And I will recuse myself from voting since my office drafted the interlocal agreement.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And we include the interlocal agreement between the city of Frosty
And I'll second that.
All right, all in favor of approving the agreement, please say aye.
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 All right, so then we have discussion items. The only thing on our discussion items list was the goal setting that we wanted to talk with Matt about. You guys all have a copy in front of you or an email or something? If not, I have. We were supposed to come up with 3. There was a very wide range that was sent to me to write up. Basically, I took the top 3 that were mentioned multiple times. Some of the bullet points on the bottom were the same point, but different comments that were made from different board members. Only 3 go in with his evaluating file. The bottom 2 were just honorable mentions, things I thought needed said.
We can continue to work on those as a system too.
Yeah, no, I kind of figured, there was a wide range of things mentioned, so.
Yeah.
The most, and they weren't even necessarily the most important things first. It was just more people mentioned.
You want to go through them one by one?
Yeah,
Kind of read them.
you know what? Yeah, we'll listen. So number 1 was be more visible in the district and the community. Bullet point 1 was spend time getting to know the teachers and staff. And these are all suggestions made by one or all of us. The next one was try to foster relationships and engage with staff and community. Maybe a monthly newsletter to staff and or community. And the next one would have been attend open houses, sporting events, concert plays, senior breakfasts, etc. I know the job requires an astonishing amount of hours. When I go by at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night and your car's still there and your office lights on, it's saying a lot, but number 2 was implement a plan to continue improvement of test scores and offerings at Prosser School District. It's been brought up recently. First bullet point was algebra, Washington State history at Housel Middle School would be real important. AP and college in the class, of which we've done a ton of college in the classes. They've increased a lot, but more AP and college in the classes at PHS. And then the one I had to throw in just because it bugs the crap out of me is more CTE offerings, if at all possible, which I know we're working that way. It's a work in progress. And one that's come up a lot recently was exit interviews and surveys. It's not just exit interviews, but it's the first bullet point was interviews with staff leaving the district to help understand what we can do to help retain staff long-term. Next bullet point was interview with choice out students, also to help understand why the decision was made to leave and try to make changes to retain students in the future and try to regain some of the recent choice out students. C, the next bullet point was interview choice in students, because we do, why do they want to come here? Is it just because we're a district of last resort or what? And then D was a possible annual survey of staff to help understand what changes as a district we can do to improve the district. Those were the 3 that were mentioned, the most frequent of the 5 of us when we wrote up our list. There were a couple that were mentioned by 2 or 3 of us that weren't unanimous, but it's number 4, it was chain of command and admin being held accountable. And it was due to discipline problems at PHS and HMS. More emphasis needs to be put on lunchtime, free time supervision. Whether it's a food fight, physical fight, or bullying, the offending parties involved need to be held accountable. B on that one is work with admin to make some long-term plans to deal with repeat offenders, frequent flyers, as I hear people call them. C, chain of command needs to be crystal clear from the bottom to the top or the top down. And D, at no point should the top admin in the district be the last to hear about an issue or be caught off guard. And then this one is something I've actually brought up. It's not just necessarily you, Matt, but this is something that's bugged me and a couple other members for a while, which was a plan to improve time management skills / plans in the district to get away from the last minute culture of decision making and planning, move to a more proactive, less reactive model, help the board with vision of long-term plans, push staff to have reports, curriculum, and other items that need to be approved ready with adequate time for the board to review them.
Thank you for putting thought and time into that and kind of focusing our efforts and directions. It's my hope that when we get ready to develop a strategic plan, that some of that feeds into it and that these are ongoing changes that we want to see have happen. So.
Well, I'm sure we'll get that way. The board needs some training and we all are working in a certain direction, so. Oh, well. So that's the last of the stuff on our agenda for tonight.
I do have a question,
Yes, sir.
or actually, it's not a question, it's a statement under, I guess it'd be number 2 goal. I think everything that's listed there under bullet points is accurate and, you know, part of our overall getting the school to the next level. But I do think, you know, a lot of our kids at Choice Out do so because they get a better education at another district or another private school or what have you. I would like to add under that to maybe reach out to nonprofit private schools and or Patterson and, you know, kind of see if we can align some of our curriculum or the way they are taught in these certain scenarios that maybe we can implement here in Prosser.
Yeah, in fact, in speaking with their new superintendent, and I know that we've done it before, they were interested at one time in a joint board meeting. And so we used to do, before I was a superintendent in Prosser, Lind and Ritzville were 2 separate districts, and so they were a co-op. And so that's how the structure of how the meetings operate is that one would call it to order, the other would call it to order, and it was a joint board meeting. And we did that, I think we did that when we were talking about facilities with them and their contribution. My hope is that at some point, you know, that I would say that Prosser and Patterson's relationship at one point was fractured and damaged, and it needs to be repaired. And so I think it goes beyond superintendents being a power broker in that it's a community to community and board to board relationship building. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of room and opportunity to grow with them. And you know, even when we talk about reducing costs, you know, we could go out to bid together on certain things and reduce prices there if we agree on curriculum, computers, all sorts of stuff. And they would have access to it as well. So yeah, I do think that there's a lot of room to grow and align and build relationships. Peggy and I actually have been up there together, went up there together once upon a time and sat in on one of their board meetings, and you know, they have really great, you know, really great board members, really great people up there. And so we have to work to build relationships, take work. right? So work to build that back.
No, and I think that's a great partnership to have up on the hill with
Yeah.
us. But I think there's an academic portion, not only at Patterson, but that we see at private schools.
Mhm.
And why are we not getting the same, in Prosser School District?
Yeah.
Or why is it different? Maybe not the same,
Yeah.
but why is it different?
Yeah.
I would like to definitely know what that is. And how we can implement it here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Jeannie?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to welcome Amy on board at the school district. I think we're all pretty happy her trip is over and that they are there and can't wait to meet her.
Well, give her a week to get over COVID and you will.
Okay.
Just wanted to say thank you.
Hi, Amy.
Hey, Amy.
I'll be there next week, so I look forward to seeing you guys more regularly.
It's good to have you back in Washington.
Yes, it is good. Thank you for the warm welcome and so
And right-
COVID finally caught up to me, but I'm getting better, so I'll be there soon.
You're right in
Yeah.
time for the States Day parade. So
Yes,
you know
yes,
that you're home now, right?
yes, yes. We are all very excited.
Good. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
All right, get better.
So Andy,
Rest up.
Thank
what
you.
the next step with the goals?
I believe just the top three.
Yeah, I
go.
can work with Andy on putting them into my evaluation.
Okay, and that goes into
I
a written
can-
document that then. comes
Yeah, I
back
can
to
send it
us?
out to the board.
And there's a due date on that?
It's like the
There was,
13th
this conversation, I think qualifies for that. Setting goals and objectives for me.
Okay,
And so, yeah, we'll populate the evaluation. We'll get it out to the board members.
okay, so we met the
And,
deadline. All right.
Yeah, and then really focusing, the next meeting is kind of reviewing because some of these things aren't just me,
Right.
they're larger than me. Really focusing some of the efforts and work of administrators and of the system itself.
All right, anything else? All right, guys, well, that's gonna conclude our meeting for tonight. Future meetings, September 14. Holy moly, that's like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a week without a meeting. Check it out. All right, so September 14, next meeting, study session, the week after that. 7 o'clock, and then Jason and I'll probably have a safety meeting, I'm assuming leading up to the September 21 meeting. Is that the plan still?
The third.
Yeah, well, it's the study session, it's the
Oh, yeah.
mid, so yeah,
That's 6 o'clock.
yeah, that would be September 21, and then a regular meeting September 28 following that. If there's nothing else. Meeting adjourned.
Good night, all.
Good night.
All right.
Hope you feel better.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Close.